Hello, Tom Stapleton here from Camp to Mead. We've got some interesting things to talk about today. So many things are happening in the world. I was talking to a few people this morning via Messenger, and we're talking about all the things that are going on today. Everything from wars and rumors of wars to famines, possible famines. We're talking about ordering seeds so that we won't have to go to the store and buy things. We're talking about diseases, what we have is a pandemic apparently today, and so on. There's just so many things that are going on. All we need is a natural disaster. Well, that's supposed to come too. According to Yeshua's word, it's in Matthew 24. He says, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, and you will have famines, pestilences, and earthquakes. So we see all these things. And isn't it amazing that we're starting to see previews of all these things that he talked about? And I don't believe any of what we're seeing today is what he talked about. So can you imagine what's going to happen when actually some of these things are unleashed in the world? Before we start this, some of these things are so important, of course, and we like to start with prayer. So let's start with prayer, ask for the Spirit's guidance as we go forward here. Father in heaven, we thank you so much that you have told us things that are going to happen. You promised to tell us, to give us your Spirit that would help us to understand all truth and show us things to come, because you thought it was necessary that we would know what's coming. And Father, as we look at these things today, help us to fit them into your word correctly. We pray this in Yeshua's name. Amen. So we want to cover a few things today. Don't want to make this too long. We know you have busy schedules, but there's so many things going on that we would like to try and make sense of what's going on in the world. There's a few things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this pestilence, this COVID-19 pestilence that we're all hearing about. We've just got some new legislation here in British Columbia I want to share with you. And I want to share with you how some of it is so ridiculous, but it all makes sense because we know who it's coming from. So we want to look at that. We also want to look at the election in the United States, try and make some sense out of that, and so on. We have had a series of late, and it's called Declaring the End from the Beginning. Sometimes when we are trying to figure out where we fit into Bible prophecy, I found many years ago, I came into this idea, well, let's go to the end of the prophecy and work backwards, and we should be able to figure out where we are in the prophecies. And it's kind of a neat idea, but it actually worked very well, and we're going to do that today. This whole series that we've been having, I'd like to encourage you to start at the beginning and go through it. What we've done is we've shown the end, and we work backwards through each of the things, talking about the mark of the beast and where America fits in Bible prophecy and so on. So we're going to do a real fast forward on some of that right now, because where we are right now is America is on the world stage. They are front and center. The whole world is watching what's going on in America. And I believe this superpower is in Bible prophecy, contrary to what some people think, but it's clearly in Bible prophecy, and we've shown that over and over and again. And I'd like to encourage you to watch some of those videos, some of our prophetic videos, and it shows clearly this. So we're not going to take time to show you that today, but what we want to look at is today in Bible prophecy, what is going on in the world stage with America being under the spotlight, as it were. And I believe that God is trying to grab our attention and show us that what is going on in America today is of utmost importance for all people on the planet. Now, here's why. We know we're going to start now. We're going to start at the end, and we're going to work backwards to today. So what do we know for sure in Bible prophecy? Well, what we know for sure is there's going to be a one world government, a one world order, which will have a one world religion. And here again, if you're not sure, if you're just tuning into us for the first time, I'd like to encourage you to watch some of our videos, The Mark of the Beast, update in Bible prophecy. Some of our current ones gives you current events and news events and so on that demonstrate that we are moving very fast toward this one world order. But before we have this one world order and this one world religion, we have to have a new world order. So a new way of looking at things on a world scale. Has anyone heard of the Great Reset, that so many world leaders are talking about a reset of the world system? You know, all these kind of almost code words that people are using, these all have to do with a movement toward a universal government, a one world universal government. And that's what the UN is doing and so on. This is what Brexit was trying to get out of in England. And this is what the United States has been doing with President Donald Trump. And he's got some very interesting addresses to the United Nations when he was over there. And I would encourage some of you to look at these addresses to the United Nations. Just Google it. President Donald Trump addresses the United Nations. He speaks clearly, openly against a one world system, globalists, he calls them, and so on. So he is completely against that. So now we see what's going on in America, and we can see that he is taking a stand against a globalist system. This is why the mainstream media is against him. This is why all these people are against him. This is why the Democrats are against him, because they want to flow into this new world system that's coming about, this globalist idea about climate change and so on. And that's another topic we're not going to talk about today, but this idea of global climate change and that's man-made and so on, that really needs to be looked into, because these are things that are far bigger than what man has been doing. So we won't talk about that today, but we can see clearly that Donald Trump wants no part of this one world system. Well, why is that? Well, it was the Christian coalition group, if you will, that actually got him elected, I believe, in the beginning. And they are a lot wiser than this global warming idea. And they do not go along with this idea at all. So they're looking at this from a totally different angle, which is a lot better angle to look at it. So he counsels with these religious people, these Protestant religious people, and I would say Catholic too. But we want to be careful about that, because we know where this is going to go. We know where it's going to go in a one world religion. I believe it will be a Christian religion. But I also believe what we're seeing right now is a conservative movement. Don't let that slip by. A conservative movement is what we're seeing. It's people that want to do the right thing. And I believe that Donald Trump, in his efforts, is trying to do the right thing, trying to do the right thing in that the founding fathers of the American nation, Christian, Judeo-Christian values that they put forward in the Constitution. This is what he's trying to hold to, and the other side is trying to do away with the Constitution. There is no question. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a little while. So he's bringing forward, and these people actually want to get back to biblical values. Now, we can see, well, they don't, keep things like we would keep, like the Sabbath and the festivals and so on, getting right back to the biblical values. But they are being awakened to the idea that there is a group of people that are doing away with biblical values and so on. So they're trying to awaken this. This right now, today, is opening the minds of many Americans that are looking at this globalist system that's coming, and they want nothing to do with it. And they're starting to study their Bibles. Now, I would like to ask, is there anything wrong with that? Oh, no, absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with that. People have to start somewhere. And so I believe there's this conservative movement to get back to biblical principles and so on. And we should take every opportunity to share what we know with these people, because they're actually getting hungry for the word, and this is a good thing. So these people are actually moving in the right direction right now. Now, the thing is, if it goes too far and they start legislating their version, this is where we're going to end up. But there's going to be a transition. So today there's this awakening, this biblical awakening, this conservative movement, get back to the biblical principles. And we need to take full advantage and share with people while we can. So here we go. Let's talk about America right now in biblical prophecy. We've demonstrated in some of our earlier videos that America is this second beast of Revelation 13 that comes up out of the earth, and it causes all those on the earth to worship the first beast. That's that first beast that's made up of 7 heads. It's got 7 heads, Revelation 13 verses 1 through 3. Has 7 heads, has the body of a leopard, the feet of a bear, and the mouth of a lion. These are world kingdoms amalgamated together to make a new world order. Then the United States comes up a little later on in chapter 13, and it's that second beast with 2 horns like a lamb, but it speaks like a dragon and causes all of those to make an image to the first beast. That's the beast with 7 heads and the body of a leopard and so on. So it creates a system that is likened to the first beast that comes up, and that would be a new world system, that first beast. And the second beast causes all those to worship the first beast. So there we can see clearly that this is when there's going to be a one world order. So what we believe is the United States is going to be responsible for bringing in the North American continent into unity with those on the other side of the Atlantic. That would be Russia, England at that time, the European Union, and China, which are the 4 remaining dominant powers in the UN. So this is clearly here what we're looking for. Now, how are we going to get there? So we can see there's resistance by the United States right now to form a union with the rest of the world through the UN powers. So how is it that they're resisting? They're resisting because they see evil in that. When you talk about a one world order to Christians, they recoil at that. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And that's, I believe, why President Donald Trump, because he's got these Christian counselors that see evil of all kinds in this one world order system that's coming. That's why he's resisting it. Now let's back up a little bit more in the prophecies to get to Daniel chapter 8. We've talked before about Daniel chapter 8. There's a war between a ram and a he-goat. And this ram that we see, it's told in verse 20, I believe, in chapter 8 of Daniel. It tells us that these are the kings of Media and Persia. And we've demonstrated these are the Middle East kings that will ultimately make war against the world because they will take on the world. They have an ideology that says they will reign, Allah will reign, and they will at some point take advantage of the weakening powers in the world, and they will make their move on the world stage to take over the world. When's that going to happen? We're going to have to watch, and we're going to see this develop as we go. But the United States is seen on a goat power in the same prophecy in verse 5. I believe it comes on the stage 5 through 8. Tells us that there's a notable horn on the goat, or a notable king that leads a charge against this Islamic revolution, if you will, on the world to take center stage. And they defeat this ram, and it says his 2 horns are broken. Nobody can help the ram, and it tramples him. In other words, the ram is done. Now, why is it important that the ram gets taken out of the way? Why is it important that Islam gets taken out of the way? And I know there's ideas out there that Islam's going to join the one world order and Chrislam and all of this. But no, that's not the way radical Islam is going to work. They want dominion. They want everyone under Sharia law. Well, the United States and the world is not going to bow to that. So when Islam rises to this occasion, they will all join because they will all realize they all have a common enemy in radical Islam when they make their move on the world stage. Are these all friendlies? Is Russia and China a friend of the United States? Well, I would say no at this time, but they will all have the same enemy and they will join forces against the same enemy at that time. Now, after that, it says when this goat, after this war and Islam is defeated, it says the goat or the UN or the New World Order system, it says, becomes very great. So this movement to a one world order will become greater. Well, it says at that time the United States will be broken or crushed or shattered, the word is, in the Hebrew. So the United States at that point is taken out of the way. Well, one has to ask, why are they taken out of the way? Well, the ram was taken out of the way because it opposed this new world system, this new world order that was coming in, so they had to take it out of the way. If the world powers see that the United States is not going to go along with this new world order, guess what? They will take it out of the way. They will create a new system where the US dollar and for other reasons will be set away, and they will create their own system. And this is what I believe is going to happen. The United States is going to be taken out of the way. They will be allowed to collapse and be not part of the New World System because they're not going to go along with it, the same way that the ram was taken out of the way. Now, this leads me to another conclusion. We have said for a long time that Donald Trump would be the one that takes the center stage when it comes to war against Islam. Why is that? Because he's a major supporter of Israel. I like to suggest that he will not allow Israel to come under fire by the Muslims because he's a very big supporter of Israel. And this is partly due to his marriage, actually, the marriage of his daughter to an Orthodox observant Jew in Jared Kushner. And also his Christian support, which is main support for Israel as well. So he's not going to stand by with and watch anyone take advantage, any Muslim country take advantage. Just in the news, very interesting, just in the news yesterday, we heard that Iranian scientist, nuclear scientist, was just assassinated, and they're putting the blame squarely on Israel. This is the timing of this is absolutely amazing. You can read about that, just Google it. And Iran is very, very upset with that. And the timing couldn't be more critical, especially as this election is now been passed. And the inauguration of the apparent new president, Joe Biden, is supposed to happen on January 20th. We're going to talk a little bit about that because that's very, very in dispute right now as well. So we can see here that what we're looking at is a crisis situation in the United States, and how is this all going to be rectified? Well, I personally believe, unlike others that have had dreams and visions that God had spoken to them, saying that Donald Trump will get another term, I can say I have not had any visions like that. I am reading biblical prophecy, making sense out of it, and by what I read in biblical prophecy, Donald Trump is the man that will remain in office. So that's the way I'm reading these prophecies. Because he is the one that is in conflict with this New World System. It would make a lot of sense if he led the world into a charge against Islam, defeated Islam, and at the end of that he would be taken out because he's still going to resist the New World Order. And we just had a little episode last week on how he fits the Nebuchadnezzar profile. It's amazing how he is like that. Also, Cyrus, who allowed the Jews to build a temple, we're looking at that as a possibility as well. I can't see President-elect Joe Biden allowing the Jews and encouraging the Jews to build their temple. So there are a few reasons why Donald Trump fits the profile much, much better. And so that's what we're looking at in him. Now, I just want to bring up a few things. How is he going to get in? I want to bring up a few things here. We're going to switch and look at a couple of news things that I want to share with you. I'm not sure which news stations you listen to. Some people I find don't even want to listen to any of the news. Well, I really like to discourage people that won't watch the news because Yeshua told us world events that would be happening. And if we're not aware of the world events that will be happening just prior to his coming, we're not going to be able to know whether these prophecies are being fulfilled, because world events and prophecy, if prophecy is a revelation of what's going to happen on the world stage so that we will know that we're very near the second coming, how are we going to know we're near the second coming if we're not looking at the news and the prophecies and blending them together? So this is what we try and do. Do we sit and listen to all these ideas and outlandish ideas about what's going on in the world and conspiracy theories and so on? No, we cannot do that. What I do is I read the Bible prophecies and the news that goes along with the Bible prophecies. This is the news that I know is true news if it matches Bible prophecy and God's word. So this is what we're doing. Spend most of your time in the Word, and then you'll be able to decipher whether the news you're hearing is actually true news. So I would like to recommend a fellow that I've been watching for quite some time on Fox News. Actually, he was a contributor to Fox News. This is when Fox News, you could actually trust Fox News, but they've taken a little bit of a different turn of late, and you have to be careful now. It's getting, in order to watch real news, you have to kind of do some hunting for it. This Dan Bongino show, I would say, is a very good source of news of late. And we're going to play just a segment of it. He's been covering the election, all of these accusations about fraudulent balloting and all of these things regarding the election. Sidney Powell and what she's doing, what Rudy Giuliani is doing and his efforts to expose the crimes that were committed during the election and all the fraud that was going on. Dan Bongino is right at the front of that, and he's trying to help people understand, because if you're just hearing CNN or here in Canada, CBC and CTV and Global News and so on, the CNNs of the world, so to speak, they are all negative, and anything that you're watching, it just makes the Republicans look very bad in what they're doing, and they're trying to cause a revolt in the United States and so on, trying to take control of the government illegally. But actually, Donald Trump is working within the Constitution and upholding the Constitution by what he's doing. And Dan Bongino is revealing this. He's getting into it. Very good. Used to be an intelligence servant in the intelligence agency, and he was law enforcement and so on. So he knows how the law works, and so he's coming from a pretty good background. I'm just going to give you a little segment, just a little taste of this, so that you will be able to know where he's coming from. Here we go.
Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the facts with your host, Dan Bongino.
Did you catch the Pennsylvania hearing on Wednesday? The Pennsylvania election hearing about all the malfeasance and misfeasance and all the other, what's the technical term, shenanigans that happened in Pennsylvania with the election 2020? Did you? If you missed it, don't worry. I have the lowlights. There are no highlights. There are interesting tidbits, but there are no highlights. Highlights would mean there was something good we should be excited about. I have 3 takeaways from that hearing, the lowlights of it, that you should not be excited about, that you should gasp in horror at. Like, oh gosh, that's a tease. No, it's not just a tease, that's a fact. You're not going to want to miss that. I also have a great article by the Federalist today pointing out more incredible anomalies that you'd think a sane person in the media would look into about this election. But no, they don't care at all because they think Joe Biden won.
So here we have just a little sampling. He goes through this and he's very detailed. He goes through all of these things that are transpiring in these investigations. And it's just very good. He does a lot better job than I do because he knows all the ins and outs and where to look for the information. I would recommend, highly recommend that you would have a look at this. Now you can find him on Rumble. That's RUMBLE.com. This is an alternative to YouTube because YouTube is now censoring things. So this is a very good place where you can find some good information. Of course, you have to watch everything and measure it up. But here again, I like to encourage people, it has to square with biblical prophecy. That's the only way you can know and understand what it is. Now, this thing in Pennsylvania, I just want to cover it briefly just so you know what's going on. The American Constitution states that the Electoral College are the ones that actually elect the president. So in brief, how does that work? If you're an American, you probably know how that works, but in Canada, we don't always follow that. Exactly how it actually works. We think the people vote. Well, the people do vote, but then the votes are turned into the states, and the states' electoral college, these are the representatives of the government, they put forward that vote. But if they feel that there's something wrong with that vote, then they put forward what they believe it should be, and they can disqualify the vote. If there's something wrong with the vote, they can actually disqualify it, and they can elect the president themselves. Well, this is extremely to me, it's fascinating. It's a check and balance in the election, and this is how things are being played out right now. They took it to court in Pennsylvania, and they also took it to the legislature. And the legislature is controlled by Republicans. Very interesting. So they took it to court. At court, they threw it out. They didn't even examine it. Well, then they took it to the legislature. And the legislature, the Republicans listened to it. And they want to say that we are not going to move forward and put forward the vote that we see here because we believe this vote is tainted with fraud and all these different things that were presented by Rudy Giuliani and his associates. And so now we have the vote now is totally under examination in Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania had a Republican Senate in there, and they controlled the legislature. Well, guess what? In Wisconsin and Michigan and Georgia all have Republican legislature that are dominated by Republicans. So now they can also do the same thing. If under the American Constitution that the legislatures of these states want to examine this vote and the fraud that's been going on, and if they side with the fraud that's been going on, they can actually put forward their vote to the federal government, and they can actually override the vote that came in because they believe it was fraudulent. This is very, very interesting. Now, Donald Trump is trying to put it through the courts to show that there was fraud and so on. But if the courts won't hear it and they won't listen to this, then they will go to this other method, which is within the American Constitution. And it's actually, and I say it again, a check and balance because they can override if they see that there's a problem with the vote itself. And this is what he explains so very well. And this is what Rudy Giuliani and his people are doing right now. Now, Sidney Powell is doing a completely different thing. What she's doing is going to take much longer because Rudy Giuliani is under a time frame and he has to prove this very quickly. And they have sworn affidavits of hundreds of witnesses, even Democrat witnesses that were apparently watching people put the ballots in the machine 4 and 5 and 6 times to give Joe Biden an advantage, and there was lots of other things that apparently were going on that they put before the legislature in Pennsylvania, and they were aghast at what was going on during the election. Pennsylvania has started a ball rolling where they could overturn the vote of the people because of these irregularities and apparent fraud that they're going to present. And if it is overruled, then this will set a precedent. And right now, the other states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia are watching this very closely. And don't forget, those states have a legislature that has the balance in the Republican legislators. So they could actually do the same thing, set the same process in order that Pennsylvania has done. If they do this, and if they actually move forward with this, then they could overturn the election results and be within the American Constitution, is what Donald Trump is trying to support and uphold through everything that he's doing. So he's not doing anything that's out of line with the Constitution. Of course, if you watch the other news networks, they're saying that he's having a coup and he's not allowing the transfer of power and so on. But they are not willing to even look at the evidence, most of these people, and see what's going on. So we have a very interesting thing developing in the United States. And Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. And we're going to have to watch this thing play out. Now, there is a warning that goes along with this. If he has to go through this method to remain in office, which would be legal, if he goes through this method, we could see very likely civil unrest in the United States. And I do not like to think of the consequences of this. But what do you do if you're American? Do you just lay back and let all of this fraud go forward and go into this new world system, which would all be illegal? So if we go forward with this and Donald Trump remains in office, then we can see the unfolding of Bible prophecy as it's laid out, with the United States leading the charge against Islam. And this little thing that we saw in the news here this morning and yesterday with this accusation against Israel and the United States by the Iranians that have assassinated, and I don't know, but the accusation is that the United States and Israel are responsible for the assassination of this Iranian nuclear scientist. And we've seen this in the past, but the rhetoric is starting to pick up again, and who knows where that's going to go. But we do know that this is going to escalate. And so this is what we're looking at. So I would say watch closely what's going on. As I read the prophecies, it looks like Donald Trump will get back in because it seems like it's going to be played out. But rest assured, even if Joe Biden gets in, if he gets in, it's not over by any means. We're looking at a one world order system sooner than later. But it doesn't seem to fit in the Bible prophecy. And I believe God is trying to draw attention to the United States and Donald Trump at this very hour to demonstrate that something big is about to take place. So here, I want to leave you with that. The American politics, will let that take care of itself, but I'm watching this closely. I want to touch on something else at this time. And I want to look at what the restrictions are right now in Canada, in the province of British Columbia. Now we can see here we have just been put under restrictions here, strict restrictions. And I've got it on this page: religious gatherings and worship services. Religious in-person gatherings and worship services are suspended under the order. For example, do not attend a service at a church, synagogue, mosque, gurdwara, not sure what that is, temple, or other places of worship. and tells us religious services can continue using remote and virtual attendance options like Zoom or Skype. You can still visit your worship place for individual activities such as contemplation or personal prayer. Wow. So here we go here, activities that are allowed. You can go for a walk, but you must make sure a walk doesn't turn into a group or people meeting outside. Parents carpooling kids to school and from. Now here's something else. Okay, we can't meet for worship services, all right? But let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. Restaurants, pubs, and bars. You must wear a mask when not at a table. Events are no longer allowed. Restaurants, pubs, and bars can continue to operate if they have COVID-19 safety plan and employee protocols in place. So I just have to stop right here. So it's okay to go to a pub and drink with friends or so on, but you cannot go to a religious service. To me, this is just mind-boggling. Do you know why this is, actually? It's because the government has left God completely out of the picture. Going to church is a nice thing. You can visit with friends and so on. But I'd like to ask some of these legislators, do you actually believe that people meet with the Almighty when they are in attendance to a church? I wonder if that would shock them a little bit, that we actually believe that we meet with the Most High God when we meet at a religious service. Wow. I wonder if they would think that maybe they're meeting with their Most High God at a pub. I'd have to ask what their Most High God is. Is it a bottle? Is it more important for these people to go to a bar and drink than it is for them to meet with the Most High? Do you see a problem with that? Wow. This little mask here is really starting to take over the world, isn't it? Now, these are good ideas. I run into people all the time, and I'm downtown in cities, and they are just so afraid. I used to talk to people, oh, I don't want to read the prophecies. That's fear-mongering. I'll tell you what, the prophecies to me are comforting. When I go downtown, I talk to fear-mongering people all the time. Don't go outside because you might get a disease. They are so afraid. Do you see how they're going to bring in the one world order? They're going to make people think that all these restrictions that they're putting on the people are for their benefit. When it comes to the place where Islam is defeated, and they realize that the only way we can have a safe world is to only have one world government and a one world religion, because it's the religions of the world that have caused all of these wars, don't you know? And so when it comes to the idea that people need a one world religion, we've just been shown, because of fear of what can happen with other religions, they all need a central religious qualifier. So there will be someone that's set up as the one that will legislate the only religions that will be accepted in the world. And we already know who that's going to be. He's already working behind the scenes and in the scenes. It's becoming very obvious who that is. And we're going to see that system before we know it. But we can see the mark of the beast coming. And we can see that they're going to use fear in people, that they're going to have to trust, and they're going to have to trust the legislators of the land. And we can see this even with the vaccines, is they're going to fearmonger the people into where they will have to have a vaccine. Anyone that's fighting against a vaccine will be possibly an enemy of the state and maybe pronounced a criminal. And we can see all of this is just stepping stones to get to the one world religion. And we know that the one world religion is going to be using this new system that will bring in the mark of the beast. We can see this clearly in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25 to be exact. It tells us there that this one world system will change times and laws. And we're not talking about civil laws. We are talking about civil laws, but it's got to do with God's law. So they're going to incorporate restrictive worship laws that will become state laws, and they will go against God's laws and his worship times and his worship laws as well. This is very clear in Scripture. In Daniel chapter 7, it talks about that. Daniel 8, it talks about that. Revelation 13, it talks about that they will make a system, a worship system. Anyone that doesn't fall in line with this worship system will actually be killed, it goes on to say. So this is where it's going. But this COVID thing, this vaccination thing, these are all stepping stones to get us to this place. So here again, keep your eyes and ears open. It seems that prophecy, even great lines of prophecy, are coming together, and they're starting to be fulfilled very quickly. Keep your eyes and ears open. Keep your mind open to things that are going on. And do watch the news to see what's going on. And do study the Word and become familiar with the prophecies of the time of the end, so that when you see these events on a world stage happen, you're going to know that the time is near, even at the doors, as Yeshua has said. Leave that with you, and keep studying, keep praying, and pray for the governments of this world, especially the government of the United States, that they can keep us out of this new world order just a little longer, and so that we can not only get ready for ourselves spiritually and physically, but we can help others to do the same. Share what you know with others so that they can know what's going on. Thank you, and we'll meet up with you later. Goodbye for now from Camp to Mead.
If you've been blessed by the information shared here today, please consider adding this ministry to the ministries you support. Thank you.